Heartwarming transformation. Millionaire patient discovers amazing truth after 12 days in coma. Jake Reynolds lay in the stark, white hospital room, a band of machines humming softly around him. Outside those walls, Milltown held its breath. A car accident had left the energetic hardware store owner, known for his booming laughter and open heart, fighting for his life. News spread like wildflowers on the wind, reaching every corner of the tight-knit town. Families who once sang his praises now murmured anxiously, how could they possibly carry on without their guiding star? Jake had been a rock for Milltown, his store more than just a place for tools and nails. It was a sanctuary for dreamers. He mentored budding entrepreneurs, offering both financial support and invaluable advice. He was a beacon of hope. Yet now, with him unconscious and unresponsive, a tidal wave of uncertainty threatened to pull them all under. Meanwhile, his estranged daughter Lily, an aspiring artist struggling in the throes of city life, received the shattering news. Memories of their fractured relationship flooded her mind, her father's incessant work life, his shining success that ever seemed to eclipse her artistic dreams. Years of unresolved resentment twisted into knots in her stomach, battling against the regret of their distance. How could she harbor such bitterness when his gentle heart was fighting for life? As whispers of kindness swirled through the diner, with townsfolk recalling tales of Jake's secret generosity funding local scholarships, helping out with groceries for struggling families, Lily found herself standing at the crossroads of her emotions, caught between judgment and newfound appreciation. Could the man she thought she knew be more than a distant figure of wealth and ambition? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lily packed her bags, each step heavier than the last, but the pull of community beckoned to her. As she roamed the familiar streets, every smile, every shared story spoke to the lengths Jake had gone for them. A warmth surged within her, pushing aside harsh judgments and peeling back layers of hurt. When Jake finally awoke after 12 painstaking days, the room was alive with laughter and tears from Milltown's residents, juxtaposed against the stark machinery of his hospital bed. The frailty of their reunion was palpable. Lily approached her father, her heart racing as emotions collided: love, disappointment, longing. Raw conversations erupted like fireworks, the night sky brightening the memories and pain they had woven together. In the midst of healing, Jake grappled with a truth that shook him to his core. His worth was far more than the wealth he had amassed. As they began to discover the essence of forgiveness and understanding, they laughed through tears and shared unspoken love. But Jake faced a looming question: should he pour himself into his community, or mend the fragile threads of family, which had unraveled over years? The looming dilemma hung in the air as father and daughter stood on the brink of a new life, still tethered to the haunting shadows of what had been. Would they be ready to navigate these turbulent waters together? The uncertainty lingered, leaving them both to wonder what path lay ahead. The sun filtered through the hospital curtains, casting soft shadows on Jake's face, as he slowly adjusted to the reality of his surroundings. Each breath felt heavier, yet somehow lighter, as if the weight of the past had begun to lift. He could feel Lily's gaze on him, filled with a complex blend of emotions he couldn't quite decipher. They had so much to reconcile, but under the sterile fluorescent lights, it all felt overshadowed by unspoken words. "Dad?" Lily's voice trembled as she reached for his hand, her fingers brushing against the rough skin of his palm. "How are you feeling?" For a moment Jake searched her face, trying to read her. It was as if he had been missing the very essence of their relationship, lost in the chaos of ambition and success, while the real treasures lay waiting for him at home. "Like I'm waking up from a long dream," he finally replied, a shaky smile breaking through. "More like a nightmare," she quipped, her lips lifting slightly. It was a small victory, an opening for hope. Jake chuckled softly, the sound a ripple in the heavy air. "You're here now. That's what matters." With those simple words, the ice began to melt. Over the next few days, they dove into the depths of their past, a shared struggle filled with pain, frustration, and missed opportunities. They recalled old memories, laughter mixed with tears. Jake found himself rediscovering the little girl who used to run to him after a scraped knee. And Lily began to see glimpses of the father who had always loved her, even if life had taken them on different paths. Still, the tension of his choices loomed large. Jake coffee-stained through his thoughts late at night, wondering if he could be the father he needed to be, and the community leader Milltown adored. The question haunted him, echoed in the gentle beeps of the hospital monitors. Amidst this turmoil, news spread through Milltown like wildfire. Visitors came in droves, filling the waiting area with expressions of love and relief. Every familiar face had a story. Stories of kindness that Jake had quietly molded into the town's fabric. The laughter and shared memories rang like chimes, an unmistakable testament to his presence in their lives. Yet as Jake soaked in these revelations, guilt weighed heavy on his heart. Lily, what if his voice broke, and all he could do was stare down at the intertwined fingers resting on the blanket? What if I fail both? What if it's too late? She squeezed his hand, her eyes bright with determination. You won't know unless you try. You have the chance to rewrite this, Dad. Together. The word together lingered in the air between them, a fragile promise of hope. Jake closed his eyes, contemplating the balancing act ahead. A rush of emotion washed over him. Could he truly embrace both family and community? With every heartbeat, he felt more connected to his daughter, and to the town he cherished. That night, Jake made a decision. After what felt like an eternity, he would not choose one over the other. He would strive to blend both worlds as one. As he lay in that bed, he felt hope flickering like a candle against the darkness. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a shadow approached the doctor with solemn news that would send ripples through their lives once again. Jake, we need to talk about your prognosis. A surge of anxiety ripped through him as he looked to Lily, feeling the warmth of her presence provide calm in the storm. How would they face this new challenge together? Would their newfound bond withstand whatever lay ahead? Jake's heart raced as he met the doctor's steady gaze. The room felt smaller, air thick with uncertainty. Your condition is serious, Jake, the doctor said gently. We've seen some signs of improvement, but the truth is we're still uncertain about the long-term recovery. Lily's grip tightened around his hand. He could feel her deep breath, a silent plea for strength. While the doctor continued, Jake's mind raced ahead. What did serious mean? Was the battle he'd begun truly worth the fight? He felt the weight of possibility and fear collide. Is there anything we can do? Lily asked, her voice unwavering despite the tremor that broke through at the end. The doctor hesitated before shaking his head. For now, it's about managing treatments and your physical therapy when you're ready. You are strong, Jake. But the road ahead is uncertain. As the doctor left the room, Jake tried to negate the pounding of his heart. Even in this moment, he felt the flickers of his bond with Lily. For her, he needed to be everything: an inspiring father, a community backbone, a man worthy of the love he had taken for granted. Dad? Lily's voice came softer now, a delicate thread weaving through the silence. You've always faced challenges. Remember when I wanted to quit soccer? Jake cracked a small smile, appreciating the gentle shift in mood. You wouldn't let me hear the end of it until I supported you even after you fell flat on your face right in front of the goal. Exactly. Her laugh was infectious, lighting up the room. You said something like, it doesn't matter how many times you fall. It matters how you get back up. Now it's your turn. As he gazed at her earnest expression, Jake felt the warmth of her words seep into him, filling the cold emptiness of uncertainty. She was right. He had to embody the lessons he had taught. It wasn't just about fighting for the townsfolk, it was fighting for this precious relationship. For them both. Days turned into a blur of visitors, therapies, and the flicker of hope. Each session stirred something inside him he thought had long been extinguished. With every physical therapy appointment, he learned to channel pain into perseverance. Despite setbacks, he began to connect fluidly with his body, reminding him of his youth, a sense of freedom, of possibilities untapped. However, beneath the surface, shadows lingered. A promise began to weigh heavier than before. Swallowing the truth was easier than revealing it, but the constant speculation about his prognosis kept gnawing at his chest. Then one afternoon, while Jake was practicing small movements with Lily guiding him, a nurse entered. Jake, you have a visitor. The door opened, revealing an unexpected face. Michael, his closest friend and business partner, with a morose expression that darkened the room. Jake hadn't anticipated seeing him, especially not now, in this raw state of vulnerability. Dread settled deep in his stomach. "What's wrong?" Jake asked, tension echoing in his voice. Michael hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "It's the business. There are things unfolding that you need to know. It's urgent." In that moment, as Jake exchanged a glance with Lily, a silent conversation filled with questions and worry, he realized that the walls of his life were shifting yet again. Would the friendship still hold if there were fractures? What truth awaited him beyond the hospital doors? The thoughts spiraled as Michael stepped closer, preparing to unveil the weight of the world outside. Could Jake handle the truth now? Would he and Lily stay strong through this unfolding storm? Michael's eyes traveled between Jake and Lily, the gravity of his news curling his lips into a tight line. "It's not just about the business. It's about you, Jake," he said, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. "What do you mean?" Jake felt another layer of fear settling in. A trapdoor in his chest seemed ready to drop him into darkness. Lily raised an eyebrow, her concern mirrored in the little crease forming between her brow. "While you've been here," Michael began, his voice barely above a whisper, "the company has been struggling. We lost key contracts and things are about to change drastically." Jake clenched his fists, the tendons in his hands straining against the fabric of the hospital gown. "Drastically? How much worse can it get? I've been out of the loop. You needed me to steer the ship. I know you were our captain." But now Michael paused, a fracture of uncertainty appearing on his face. "We might have to sell, Jake, to save what's left." Jake felt as if the ground beneath him had shattered. The business was not just numbers to him. It was family, a legacy. It was everything he had poured his heart into. It was also his chance to create a future for Lily, a chance to make something meaningful in their community. "What about the town? The jobs we created? Can't we find another way?" His voice trembled with frustration. Michael took a deep breath, his gaze imploring Jake to understand. "I wish there were options. But without you, the board is losing faith. They're scared." Lily squeezed Jake's hand tighter. The weight of it all started to settle around them like a thick fog. Jake faced a choice that felt impossible. Push through his own health crisis to save the business or let it go and focus on healing. Either way, pieces of his world were shattering. "Do you need me to make decisions from here while I recover?" he asked, swallowing back the bitterness of fear. "Honestly?" Michael shook his head, sadness etched across his brow. "No. You need to concentrate on getting better, to be the father and man we all know you are." "I can't do that." Jake spat the words, anger flaring. "I can't just sit back and watch something I built fall apart." Jake, Lily's voice broke through. Firm yet soft, "You can't do everything at once. You have to let go sometimes, just like you taught me on the field. Focus on healing. We'll figure this out together." "Together," Jake echoed, the word tasting bittersweet on his tongue. Felt so distant now. He stared at Lily, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Would she really be okay with him not being there to fight the storms? Could they find a way forward without him at the helm, actively driving change and success? As Michael left the room to give them some space, Jake felt the air fill with an uncomfortable silence. "I'm scared, Lily," he admitted, his voice low. "If I let go of the business now, what does that say about me? You're not just a job, Dad." She met his gaze, steady and unyielding. "You're my dad. Whatever happens with work, we will manage as long as you're here fighting for yourself." He processed her words, turning them over in his mind like precious stones. It was truth, raw and transforming, sitting in stark contrast to the chaos of the world outside. Suddenly, the room's muted sounds morphed into an overwhelming cacophony of choices. Hope flickered like a candle, its flame gently beckoning him away from despair. In that moment of clarity, he realized he had to embrace the uncertainty, choosing to believe that their bond was strong enough to weather any storm. But how would he balance both his recovery and the impending changes in his life? Lily's fierce spirit ignited a flame within him, but Jake still had to confront the bruising reality outside those hospital walls. He took a deep breath, preparing himself for the battles ahead, not just with his body, but with his heart and soul too. Could he really hold on to both his roles, the father and the business leader, without losing himself in the process? With these swirling thoughts, the storm of uncertainty began to loom larger than ever before. The beeping machines surrounded Jake, a rhythmic reminder of his fragile state. As he lay in bed, the weight of his decisions loomed heavier than the illness that had brought him here. For a fleeting moment, despair threatened to crush him again, but it was a mere flicker in the face of Lily's unwavering gaze. "Dad?" Her voice was a lifeline. "You're okay. Just focus on me." He nodded, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. The truth was he didn't feel okay. How could he? His entire identity had been wrapped up in the business he had built, the dreams he had crafted, and now, uncertainty swirled around him like a storm cloud. "Lily, what if I'm not strong enough to fight through this?" Jake's voice was shaky, revealing the cracks in his armor. "You are strong," Lily said, her eyes glinting with determination. "You taught me that strength is not always about never feeling weak." Her words resonated with him, ricocheting through the chaos in his mind. He remembered the countless lessons he had imparted, often delivered with the intensity of a high-stakes game. But now he realized being strong didn't mean he had to shoulder everything alone. Michael's plan, he started, then faltered. Could he really trust his friend to make the right calls in his absence? What if they sell the company and I wake up to a completely different life? "They won't forget your vision," Lily replied. "You'll find a way to guide them. You're still their captain, even if you're not in the captain's seat. Just look at how hard they've worked to keep things moving without you." Jake took a moment to absorb that. Michael had made it clear that the presence of his leadership brought faith. But faith alone felt like it wouldn't be enough to save his legacy. "Lily, my heart is torn," he confessed, each word heavy with the weight of his emotions. "I want to fight for the business, but I also want to fight for us, for our family." "There's no need to pick one over the other," she urged. "You can show the world what it means to fight for both. But you have to heal first. You have to put your health before everything." The door opened softly and Michael stepped in, placing a cup of tea on the table beside Jake. "Thought you might need some comfort," he said, though concern was etched on his face. "Michael," Jake started, feeling the need to voice the turmoil inside. What if the company doesn't survive? What if all I worked for disappears?" "Then we will rebuild," Michael answered, his voice steady. "You're the heart of that place. No one can take that away. And we're all behind you, ready to carry the load until you're back on your feet." A part of Jake wanted to believe him. The other part of him was tired, worn out from battling fear and uncertainty. The heartwarming truth was, he didn't have to navigate this alone. As he sipped the comforting tea, warmth spread through his body, soothing some of the anxiety wrapped around his heart. Together, he whispered, thinking of his family, his friends, and his business. Could together be enough to create a new path? Just then, the faint murmur of voices outside caught his attention, the chatter of nurses, the shuffle of patients. The world was still going on without him, yet it didn't feel right. "Lily," he said, his voice gaining strength, "we need a plan. If I'm going to fight, then I want to fight to make sure everything we built doesn't just crumble. I want to leave something behind for you. Then let us start with you." "We'll take it one step at a time," she replied, her voice resolute. Jake felt determination surge within him. With Lily by his side and Michael's support, maybe he could forge a new pathway through the uncertainty. But just as hope began to settle in, a nurse entered the room with urgency. "Mr. Harris, we need you to sign these documents for your treatment options moving forward." Jake's heart raced as he glimpsed the papers, decisions that would impact not just his health, but the fate of everything he held dear. Would it lead him closer to both a stronger future and the legacy he wanted for Lily? Or would these choices pull him further away from the vision he dreamed? In that instant, he felt the familiar weight of the storm returning. The decisions laid before him could determine the course of not just his life but the lives of many. What would he choose next? Jake stared at the documents in front of him, his heartbeat echoing in his ears like a thunderous drum. The nurse's expectant gaze felt like a spotlight, illuminating every fear he held. Each option represented a crossroads, a potential shift in his existence that seemed almost too big to fathom. "What will it be, Mr. Harris?" the nurse asked gently, breaking the thundercloud of silence that filled the room. He could feel Lily's eyes on him, filled with encouragement yet brimming with unspoken worry. The paper looked so innocuous, yet it contained the power to alter his life, to dictate not just the care of his body but the survival of everything he and Lily had built together. Jake looked at Lily, her expression a mix of concern and hope, and he knew he owed it to her, to himself, to make the right choice. "Can you give me a minute?" he asked the nurse, his voice steadier than he felt. Of course, she nodded, slipping back through the door, leaving the two of them alone in the sterile little room filled with the incessant beeping of machines that had become so familiar over the past days. "Dad," Lily said slowly, as if weighing her words carefully, "whatever you decide, I'm here for you. Just remember, you are stronger than you think." For a moment, the enormity of their situation sank in deeper. She believed in him. With everything inside him, he wanted to believe too. "But what if I'm not ready for this fight?" he admitted, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Ready or not, it's time," she replied. "You've faced challenges before. This is just another one, but you've got a whole team behind you. Not just Michael or the company, but me. Us." Jake felt a swell of emotion. The love in her words, the strength in her conviction, was like a tether pulling him back from the edge of despair. But even as he nodded, the uncertainty loomed large, casting shadows in his mind. He reached for the documents again. The reality was stark. Choosing the right path meant understanding the implications may lead him down a very different road. "Lily, what if I choose the wrong treatment? Then we'll learn together how to correct it," she said quickly, her arms crossing in an almost protective fashion. "There's no right path when it comes to health. It's about what feels right to you. But they're my life, my legacy." Jake's words trailed off, choked by the weight of fear. "Your life is right here, Dad," she pointed emphatically at his heart, her voice steady. "Your legacy isn't just in the company. It's in us in this moment." He looked at her, really looked at her, and felt the warmth spread through him again. She had turned into a pillar of strength, something he once thought was his role alone. With a deep breath, Jake made a decision. "Okay, I'll sign. I'll fight for us. For the future." That clarity ignited a spark in him. He wasn't merely thinking about himself anymore, he was fighting for Lily's dreams, the values he instilled in her, and everything they had built together. He reached for the pen, his hand shaking slightly, and began to sign the papers. Each stroke felt like an act of defiance against the illness that threatened to define him. With Lily's presence at his side, hope ignited in his chest. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside, the faint sound of shouting, hurried footsteps, then an intense ring of alarms. Jake's heart dropped. He paused, feeling the weight of that moment shift yet again. "What is happening?" he asked, a chill running down his spine as the chaos escalated beyond the door. Lily's face paled. "I don't know, but it doesn't sound good." Just as Jake opened his mouth to question further, the door swung open and another nurse rushed in, her expression a mix of urgency and fear. "Mr. Harris, we need you to come with us," she said, her voice a stark contrast to the calm he'd just started to reclaim. In that heartbeat, Jake realized that the fight was not over. New challenges awaited him, ones far beyond his immediate control. What lay just around the corner, awaiting him in that storm, was uncertain and terrifying. What now? He thought as adrenaline surged in his veins. The fight for his health wasn't just a personal journey, it felt like it was spiraling into something much bigger. What crisis was they facing? And would he even be able to fight when the stakes had suddenly risen beyond his comprehension? Jake felt his pulse race as he followed the nurse down the stark hallway, each step echoing off the cold tiles beneath him. The intensity of the alarms faded somewhat, but the ultimate urgency remained palpable, thickening the air. Lily's anxious face, framed by the fluorescent lights, lingered in his mind as he gripped the arm of the nurse for support. "Is it my condition? What is happening?" Jake's voice trembled. He couldn't shake the feeling that the chaos was somehow connected to him. The nurse glanced back, her face tight with concern. "I can't explain right now. We need to move quickly." They turned a corner, bursting into a frantic scene. Medical staff dashed around, some juggling equipment while others prepared for something serious. Jake's heart sank at the sight of a commotion in a room labeled emergency. His chest tightened. The fight for his health felt momentarily eclipsed by the fear that something terrible was occurring just out of sight, which made him question what kind of battle he had unwittingly entered. The nurse led him to a small waiting area, where a few worried faces lingered. He noticed one of the faces was Michael, his business partner, looking as if he had aged a decade overnight. The sight sent a wave of dread washing through Jake. "Jake!" Michael bounded over, clearly relieved yet shaken. What's going on? I just heard alarms go off. It was chaotic. I don't know, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper, but they rushed me here. What's happening? Is it a patient? Michael's expression shifted between concern and frustration. I don't know. They just told me that an emergency was declared on this floor. All non-essential personnel were told to evacuate. Jake felt a rush of emotions: fear, confusion, anger. What was this all leading to? Was he just a pawn in a game much larger than him? He couldn't help but think of Lily, wondering if she was still okay, if she was still believing in him, and if she would think of him as just a failure in the end. Just then, another nurse rushed in, her face drawn and serious. We need Mr. Harris's consent for a procedure. It's urgent and concerning. Jake's heart plummeted. What kind of procedure? The nurse hesitated, then spoke quickly, her words tumbling out. There's been an accident in the hospital lab. There was a chemical spill and it's caused an emergency outbreak. We're checking all patients and need your permission to test for exposure. Jake's stomach twisted with unease. Exposure to what? Some unregulated substances. We don't want to take any chances. He took a deep breath, needing to steady himself. The walls felt like they were closing in, shadows creeping at the edges of his mind. Okay, do what you need to do. Just get it over with. She nodded, her urgency palpable as she began the necessary forms, but Jake felt a pang of vulnerability. Each action they took, each decision he had to make wasn't just for him anymore. It extended to his family, to Lily, who had given him the strength to confront his demons. As she hurried away, he turned to Michael, who was visibly stricken. What does this mean? Will I be okay? Michael gave a grim smile. We're right here for you, Jake. Whatever happens, you're not alone in this fight. And right then, that marginal comfort fueled Jake's resolve a bit more, even as the unknown loomed around him like a dark cloud. Before he could delve deeper into his racing thoughts, he heard the clamor of footsteps approaching, more frantic than before. Mr. Harris, another doctor, called as he rounded the corner, his expression serious. I need to speak with you. It's urgent. Jake's heart raced again. Was this about his treatment, his health, or something worse? What now? He wondered, feeling the distress draw tighter around him. What new storm was on the horizon that he would have to face? The doctor, a tall man with graying hair and an air of authority, approached Jake with a clipboard in hand. The weight of his expression made Jake's stomach churn. Mr. Harris, he said, fixing Jake with a serious gaze, I need you to understand the gravity of the situation. The chemical spill involved a substance that could pose serious health risks. We need to proceed with the tests as soon as possible, and I can't offer any guarantees about what we might find. Jake felt his breath hitch. But what if I'm fine? He asked, desperation creeping into his voice. I have to be fine. I can't go back to that darkness. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, the doctor continued, a softness creeping into his tone. There's uncertainty ahead, but we're going to do everything we can to manage whatever comes. You need to be brave. Brave? Jake echoed, his voice cracking. What does that even mean in a situation like this? The question hung in the air, clawing at his chest. Images of Lily flooded his mind, the laughter they had shared, her smile that could light up the darkest room. What if the consequences of this moment took him away from her? Bravery isn't about being fearless, the doctor replied, his eyes steady. It's about facing the fear despite the risk. Facing the unknown. Michael stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on Jake's shoulder. You've confronted challenges before, Jake. You can do this. The nurse returned, her presence grounding. We're ready for you, Mr. Harris. Right this way. As Jake turned to follow, he stole one last glance at Michael, whose eyes conveyed unwavering support. Steeling himself, he took a deep breath and stepped into the testing room. The sterile smell of antiseptic hit him, mingling with his anxiety. Medical instruments gleamed under the harsh lights. A sharp pang of vulnerability surged within him as they prepared for the test. With each sound beeping machines, whispered instructions, he felt increasingly exposed, as if every secret of his life lay bare before them. He positioned himself on the examination table and tried to clear his mind. Wasn't this about survival? The urge to fight surged through him. No matter what lay ahead, he wanted to rise above it. He wanted to see Lily again, to prove to her that he could overcome anything, even when it felt insurmountable. The technician prepped the equipment, explaining every step in detail. Jake nodded mechanically, words blurred by the thumping of his heart. Time felt suspended. He closed his eyes briefly, envisioning the sun streaming down on him and Lily at the park. Her laughter echoed in his mind, a lifeline to tether himself to this world. Just then the room went silent. The technician frowned, eyes darting back to the monitors. Panic washed over Jake. What is happening? Is it bad? Before he could process the storm of worry colliding in his chest, the doctor returned, looking more harried than before. There's been another development, he said, voice laced with urgency. We need to discuss your test results immediately. Jake felt the room spin. Another development? This was already spiraling out of control. He glanced back at the tech, whose face mirrored the confusion, and then to Michael outside the doorway. What does this mean? What do I need to face now? The doctor leaned closer, his voice low and grave. You need to understand the truth about what's happening. It's urgent and it affects everything. Jake's heart raced once more. What truth? The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. What was he about to discover, and could he handle it? The doctor took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for what was to come. Jake, based on initial findings, we believe the chemical exposure may have led to unexpected complications that may require immediate intervention, he said. Jake's mind was racing. What complications? You can't just drop a bomb like that and expect me to stay calm. His voice cracked, the desperation creeping back. The doctor hesitated, his eyes flickering as he chose his words. It's possible that there are signs of something more severe. We believe you might need immediate treatment, a procedure to address it. Treatment for what? Jake felt the walls closing in, the sterile air thickening around him. What are you saying? Jake, the doctor continued gently, we need to perform another round of tests right away. If it's what we fear, the earlier we act, the better your chances will be. Panic crested like a wave, threatening to overwhelm him. All those months of fighting his battles in the shadows, scraping by, and facing his fears, it felt like it was unraveling in an instant. His heart raced as memories clashed in his mind, Lily's voice calling him back from despair. The warmth of her hand in his. How she believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. Am I going to die? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The doctor's expression softened, but he didn't shy away from the hard truth. There are risks, yes. But we can't be definitive without the tests. We need to act. You need to hold on to hope. Hope. It was a dangerous word, a thin thread in the dark. Could he cling to it this time? I can't go back to that world where everything is dark, he said, the weight of his fears threatening to crush him. We'll do everything we can to prevent that, the doctor assured him. But you must trust us and trust yourself. Remember, bravery is about facing fear. Jake took a shaky breath, feeling Michael's presence behind him like a pillar of strength. Somehow he was going to have to find that bravery, even if it felt like falling into an abyss. Suddenly, a sharp wave of realization washed over him. Lily, he murmured. She needs me. I need to fight for her, for us. The resolve surged through him, igniting a flicker of determination in his chest. Exactly, the doctor nodded, encouraged by the spark in Jake's eyes. You have a reason to fight. We'll get you through this. The technician re-entered, a sense of urgency in her demeanor. Ready for the next tests, Mr. Harris? Yeah, let us do this, Jake said, trying to fortify himself against the tide of uncertainty. As they wheeled in the equipment and began prepping him, Jake couldn't stop thinking about Lily. He pictured her smile, her laughter, and how she always believed he could overcome anything. He needed that belief now more than ever. The echo of the machinery and whispers filled the room again as he lay back on the table, heart thundering in his chest. He squeezed his eyes shut, blocking out the sterile sights, and instead conjured up another image. A sunny day in the park, one where he'd hold her hand and be free. Stay with me, Jake, Michael said softly as he gave Jake's shoulder a reassuring squeeze. I will, Jake replied with newfound conviction. I'm not done fighting. Just then the beeping began to speed up, a staccato rhythm that quickened with his heart. The doctor leaned in, his expression intent. "Whatever happens, Jake, we're here for you. But remember, just tell me the truth," Jake interrupted softly, his voice steadying. "I can handle it." The doctor hesitated again and nodded. "All right, we'll find out together. Whatever it is, you need to be ready." And as they rolled Jake towards the machine, he felt a strange calm settle over him. Maybe this was his chance not just to fight for his life, but to reclaim it. But as the machine powered up, a new sense of dread seeped in. What if the truth was more than he could bear? In that moment he realized that hope and fear often danced a fine line. And as the lights of the machine flickered on, he couldn't shake the question forming in his mind. What awaited him on the other side? The hum of machines faded as Jake entered the testing room, where everything felt both alien and achingly familiar. Panic flared and faded, replaced by a steely sense of resolve. The time had come for him to decide not just who he would be, but how deeply he would fight for the life he still longed for. As the technician prepped the room, Jake took a deep breath. He centered his thoughts, clinging to the image of Lily, the warmth of her smile, the strength in her voice, each memory fueling his courage. "I've got to do this," he whispered, almost as if speaking to himself alone. The doctor returned shortly, clipboard in hand, his expression serious yet hopeful. "We're going to start the tests now, but I need to remind you that we're in this together. You're not alone." Jake met the doctor's gaze, aware that the battle he fought was not confined to his physical being. It was about rebuilding connections, finding a way to be both a father and a community leader, even amidst uncertainty. He nodded, allowing the doctor's words to settle within him. The tests began, and as the machinery whirred to life, he felt an undercurrent of anxiety wash over him. But amidst this, a newfound clarity emerged. Something deep within assured him that every step he took now was a step towards healing. Not just in body but in spirit. "Stay strong, stay focused. Think of Lily," he chanted inside his mind as the lights magnified and the beeping quickened in intensity. Hours later, he lay back in his hospital bed, the world having shifted again. The doctor entered, a serious look on his face, but Jake felt ready. He had faced the testing. He had summoned bravery. Now came the moment of truth. "Jake," the doctor began softly, "the tests came back revealing some concerning results. We're going to have to schedule a procedure to address it immediately. But you must understand, with early intervention, there's a strong chance for recovery." Jake felt his heart race again. What are we talking about? What are the complications? He searched for answers in the doctor's steady gaze. "Potential tissue damage due to chemical exposure. We need to repair it swiftly," the doctor replied, his demeanor calm yet urgent. A wave of uncertainty flared, but it was quickly smothered by the flicker of hope igniting within him. "Okay, let us do it. I trust you," he said, determination hardening his voice. No longer the fearful man he had been mere weeks ago. That night, Jake felt settled in a way he hadn't experienced since waking from his coma. A deeper understanding had emerged. He was no longer just fighting for himself. He was fighting for Lily, for all they had lost and all they could still rebuild together. As the sun streamed through the hospital window the next morning, casting golden rays across his room, he reflected on his transformation. This fight, this journey was about more than healing scars. It was about reconnecting with the people he loved, a chance to be fully alive, to embrace both vulnerability and strength. He felt feverish anticipation for what lay ahead. The procedure could restore his health, but the road ahead remained uncertain. Yet he had Lily. "I won't lose you again," he promised silently. Later that day, when Lily returned with her head held high and determination blazing in her eyes, Jake's heart swelled with pride. "You ready for this?" she asked, taking his hand, which had become a lifeline in so many aspects. "More than I've ever been," Jake replied, a radiant smile breaking through the worry etched on his face. As the medical staff wheeled him down the hallway toward the operating room, something shifted within him. He wasn't drifting into another fight alone. He was stepping toward a new beginning, side by side with the daughter he loved and the community that cheered both their healing. "Whatever happens, I'm not alone," he thought, his heart swelling with a profound realization. True wealth wasn't just about the business he built, but the family and community that inspired him to fight back. And just as the lights dimmed and the world faded to black, an unexpected calm flooded his senses. Jake closed his eyes, envisioning a future filled with laughter, warmth, and openness. When the dust settled from this storm, he would rise. Renewed. Ready. This was the moment he had been waiting for, a chance not just at survival, but at living fully, embracing every joy and lesson life had to offer. As he surrendered to the depths of the procedure, he did so, heart and soul free, hopeful for the journey ahead with Lily by his side. And so Jake began to awaken, not just to life, but to love renewed, a community reborn, and a bond with his daughter that would guide them through any future storm. Now let us take a moment, my friend. If you felt inspired by Jake and Lily's journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait, not even one more second. Hit that button and be part of our growing community. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this ending. I want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. This is the moment to show your support. True fans know how vital these actions are for keeping our community alive and thriving. Let us grow this story together.